There ain't a thing I face that's been too much for me.
Nobody's gonna see me coming. Nobody's gonna hear a sound. No matter how hard they try it. Nobody's gonna bring me down. Nobody's gonna see me coming. Nobody's gonna hear a sound. No matter how hard they try it. No stopping me since I found.
My inner ninja. My inner ninja. My inner ninja. My inner ninja.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to 21st Century Coach. I'm really excited today to have a career coach on the show who is going to talk to us about the different ways in which a career counselor can change your path, help you find one that you didn't even know was within you, guide you as you hit barriers and feel overwhelmed and stressed by this concept of somehow finding meaningful work in the 21st century, which is particularly challenging. Ali Breen is with us here today, and she is an expert on millennial coaching, and she works with our newest generation of employees, basically. I mean, there's generations that follow, of course, but they're not the ones that are now dominating the workforce. And so millennials are the most important in many ways, as they are new to the workforce, and yet they come with this completely different approach due to the fact that they were raised in technology that none of us had ever experienced before. So Ali is a millennials career coach in particular. She works with lots of people, but she specializes in being a millennial career coach. And she believes that your career can and should be a reflection of who you are and how you want to be in the world. She uses story-based narrative coaching, which we'll definitely get into and ask her about because it's a very distinct approach. And she uses it to help her clients get clear about what they want and how and when they can actually get it. As a past corporate recruiter and bilingual career practitioner in nonprofit employment centers, Ali has experience from both sides of the career management table. She looks at realistic divergence from the cookie-cutter career advice and tools that are outdated and mostly broken. So it's going to be a tough conversation, which we're used to on 21st Century Coach, because we tackle really difficult things in the workplace and in coaching and in this changing world of coaching. So it is a broken system, and that's something that I'd love to hear Ali start our conversation on today. So Ali, welcome.
Hi, I'm so pumped to be here.
Well, it's really nice of you to take out time from your extremely busy practice. Ali is very much a Kickstarter and continuously launching events and holding workshops and having panels. And so one of her panels that I wanted to ask her about right from the beginning, because it really caught my eye, was, can you tell us a bit about what a quote-unquote gamified career clarity workshop looks like when it's run by Ali Breen?
Yeah, for sure. So there is this really cool postmodern tool. So let me start with explaining what happens. I'll answer your question directly. You walk into a room and you see a very colorful game board. And there's this like weird magic wand thing on the board. And everyone is a little apprehensive, but also a little excited because this isn't what they're used to for a career workshop. There's no PowerPoint, there's no point-formed handout sheet. And the workshop itself is you actually play a board game, which sort of allows you to reflect yourself and then share with a peer group some of the things that are your strengths, are your desires, some of the influences that other people's life have on you, and all of that sort of stuff that encompasses a holistic view of career and life. And the reason why it's really different is because normally when I say I'm a career coach, people are like, oh, so you like edit resumes and stuff? And it's so much more than resumes. In fact, in my career coaching program, I often don't look at someone's resume until maybe the third or fourth session, because there's so much that needs to come before that. right? And so the tool that the game is a tool by One Life Tools. And it is part of a series of postmodern tools that I draw from because I like them and millennial clients respond to them. And they really put the client at the center of what's going on. And it's very much their own personal lens that they get to view and reflect on their experiences through. And then they get to create some forward thinking that's truly personal to them.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I also know about the career game. I've actually played it and I've done training in it. And I wanted to hear your different way of approaching and describing how you might see this tool, because we're different generations. Now, what's so funny with me is being I guess I'm Gen X, what I would have said is, oh, this, I wouldn't have called it even postmodern. I mean, I just find it fascinating that our vocabulary is different. I would have completely honed in on, it's like sitting around the campfire and telling stories. And it's that kind of magical moment where it's the end of the day and people let their guard down and they start to share. And it's so amazing how you can do it with strangers. And I don't know, I just think it's really, your version of how the game works is so dead on. And yet it's a different way of thinking about it than mine.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about, like, if it's coaches listening to this podcast, how can I explain it in coach speak? But that's almost exactly how I would explain it to a client or a potential person that was like signing up for one of my cocktails and careers night at, the local watering hole. I'm like, okay, come. It's like you basically bond with a bunch of strangers over cocktails and your life purpose. It's not a big deal. It's fine.
Well, I thought it's I think the gamification idea is really taking career by storm, and it's something that I know you really represent, and it's this idea that career launching, and especially for young people right now, is so stressful. They are under so much pressure, and the thing that's really sad is these feelings they have of failure and inadequacy and doubt and true fear. And yet, what I love about your approach and the way in which you train and work with people is it's fun, it's gamified, it's exciting, it's about discovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and clarity. It's like a fun gut check, Yeah. Right?
Totally.
And it cancels out a lot of the noise too. It's funny. I definitely believe what you said at the beginning in my bio. I do believe that your career can and should be a reflection of who you are and how you want to show up in the world. Well, that's a One Life Tools definition. In fact, it came from Mark Franklin and Rich Feller, who are both thought leaders in the field of career development. And when I heard that said aloud, I realized that's the way I've been coaching for over a decade, right? Like, I started in career development, it's 11 years ago now, which is crazy. But, and I started it as a receptionist in a career center, I was sort of really at the bottom of that kind of a ladder. But my career path has been more like a lattice than a ladder. And it's been all over the place. Partly because of where I live. I live in Halifax on the East Coast, and we can sometimes be called the have-not province. I live in a city that's a small town, right? Like I live in the biggest city in my province, but it is small. That reflection thing, when you get back to the fear you were talking about, I use that definition at the beginning of every conversation I have with a client or potential client to gauge their reaction. And some people, their minds are blown. They've never thought about their career as anything other than a job. So they're like, wait, whoa, like that means that what I do at home, that means what I'm even bringing to my job, what I do at lunch, the way I interact with my coworkers. That means the volunteer stuff I do. That means the things I think and feel are part of my career. That doesn't really make sense. The way I've been thinking about it in the past is just like, this is my cubicle. This is my 9 to 5, But then some people are ashamed. they're like, well, if that's true, then I'm failing at life. If my career is supposed to reflect who I am and how I want to show up in the world, I am not doing that. I am failing at that. I suck. I have had people be like, well, that is just terrifying, you know, because they know they want to change. They know they're stuck, and they know that they're getting up every day and spending 8 hours a day doing something that just doesn't light them up. Like, ugh.
And so when people hit this kind of place of being stuck, and you know, you're pretty forthright about the system is very broken. And just as you've said, I mean, we still seem to be trapped in this 19th century modality of using the resume or the cover letter as any way, shape, or form to express ourselves in the 21st century, and it's just not working. How do you help people tap into discovering what it is that lights them up or excites them or is much more true to who they want to be in the workplace?
Well, one of the things I try to focus on is actually a positive psychology concept called flow. So, flow in a nutshell is when you get totally wrapped up in something you're doing. The world kind of falls away. You can forget that you're hungry. You can forget that you're thirsty. You can forget that that you are, needing to go to an appointment in 15 minutes and you should get your shoes on. Like flow, you're doing something and you love it and you're so wrapped up in it that the world just falls away. So we don't, in this day and age of constant checking my phone, there's a notification, there's something on Insta, there's this, plus all of the demands we have, right? I need work, I need self-care, I need a balanced life, I need to go to the pumpkin patch, I need a pumpkin spice latte, like I need, I need to do all these fall. Oh my God, there's, Christmas stuff at IKEA. So there's all of that distraction. How often do we really let ourselves get lost in things? I start there. I take a real step back and I say, when do you get lost? That's part of being happy, is when you're lost. What kind of work is out there that gives you flow? Is that in your job now? Could it be in the future? Those sorts of things. So I start with flow.
And is that one of your magic words that are
Yeah.
So we finally found one of the magic words. Okay, well, I think what we should do is try and see if I can find them as we go through our conversation.
Well, we already talked about one as well.
Which was the other one?
Reflection.
Oh, reflection.
Yeah.
And so
because it's the definition, but it's also like you learn from reflecting on your experience. We always say, oh, you learn from experience. No, you learn by thinking and reflecting about your experiences. And one of the things I do as a coach, and what most coaches should do, good coaches, is they reflect back to you exactly what you said. Because it is rare for you to hear yourself actually talk out loud. Like really hear yourself. Good coaches reflect back to you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really loved about the career game with One Life Tools, this idea that it was very important for everyone at the table to listen to each other's stories so that you could repeat them back in an empathic manner. And really, that listening piece, I agree with you, in fact, and it's a really important point to have raised on 21st Century Coach, because for me, this is an exploration on what is coaching now and what does it mean and how does it tie back to what it was in the past. And I think empathy and that idea of truly listening and then reflecting back to someone and really just hearing them from where they're coming from is so vital. It's arguably one of the most important coaching tools that any of us have.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, for sure.
So reflection is a magic word. Flow is a magic word. I want to see if maybe we can find another one of those key words from you. If you talked a little bit about your the relationship you see between coaching and advocacy, because part of your practice is really advocating for people that have hit really significant barriers or have deep concerns about themselves in the workplace. And I wanted you to share some of those stories with us.
Yeah, sure. So both from just my work in the community in general, and then also from